My junior year of high school, I really wanted to challenge myself academically, so I decided to take AP Physics. Now this wasn't out of the normal for me as I had already been taking all the pre-AP and AP classes that I could up to this point, but this class, it's like what everyone says, it's hard as hell. And it was actually a lot harder for me because originally I was in on-level physics because of a scheduling error, and it took about 2 weeks after school started for me to be put into the AP classes. Now, 2 weeks, given our AB scheduling, was about 5 classes. So I missed 5 classes of AP Physics. And you'd imagine not a lot of progress can be made in 5 days, especially at the beginning of a new school year. You'd maybe the first 2 days are like icebreaker days or just kind of softballing you, just so you can get kind of a basic understanding of the class. I came into that class after 2 weeks and I was a unit and a half behind. My on-level class, I mean, hell, they were still doing icebreakers on day 5, but these guys, they were on a new unit already. So I was fucked. If I didn't get my shit in gear, I was fucked. And I didn't. I was consistently getting my ass kicked in that class. Every single test we'd take, I'd get a 50 on, which to some degree is somewhat impressive, but it's also like it's still a passing grade given the grading criteria of AP classes, but it was still a 50. And no one's happy getting a 50 on a test they work hard on. And I remember I was struggling the entire first semester and until right before our winter break. My teacher comes to me. He says, "Hey, if you want to drop the class and go down to on level, this is the perfect time to do it. No one's like it's there's no conflict, there's no scheduling errors, like and no one's gonna like judge you for dropping the class. No one's gonna like call you a loser or anything." I just remember thinking like, what the fuck? Like, no way this guy does not believe in me that much that he wants me to drop the class. And so I took that and I took my 2 weeks off for winter break and I just zoned in. I locked it. I I was just studying constantly. I was doing every review packet we had. I was taking every online little lecture we could. And I come back from winter break. Maybe a week or two passes. We're just doing lessons and then we get our review test just to make sure we kept all the knowledge from last year. And I scored about like a 70, 75 range on that. And I remember getting it back and I was like, hell yes. Because even though a 70 75 is like barely passing for a normal class's grade schedule, like grading criteria, I had gotten like a 50% increase upon my previous scores. Going from a 50 to a 75 in one jump, I was ecstatic. And I took that energy, I took that just honage of my skills and I just carried it out through the end of the year. Again, I was averaging about 50% on these tests, so I was holding about like a 50, like 50, 55, 60 all throughout the entire first semester. And I just kept up the work, kept showing up to class, kept just being present and being attentive. And I ended up finishing that class around, I think it was an 86, 86 in that class. And my teacher, I was very closed off. I didn't really go into any like after school meetings or the in school Eagle times for extra tutoring. I never went to those. It was just purely myself who was studying alone. And he asked me like, "How did you do it?" Not in like a I think you're cheating kind of way, but he was like, "How did you make such a turnaround?" And I told him I just consistently showed up. Even though I was bad at it and I was late to the class in general and I was just behind, I showed up and I put in the work. Even though I wasn't the best and I wasn't scoring the best grades and I wasn't the best in the class, I was still showing up. I was still I was raising my hand, answering questions or asking questions too. I was showing up and being consistent. And I really wanted to talk about that today because I think that I'm looking over here for some reason. I don't know why. I think that consistency is one of the most important things that any person can really, really have. And having that skill of being consistent is way more important than just being naturally gifted at something. You don't look at a guy who I don't I think it's Kobe. I think he's the basketball player of this story. You don't look at a guy who goes to the gym every morning at 5 a.m. to just shoot hoops and to practice drills. You don't look at that guy and go, "Man, that guy just he's normal." He's just naturally gifted at the sport. That guy shows up and he puts in the work and he's consistent about it. He's consistently going in at 5 in the morning to put in the work. I guess he's consistently also went to Chicago um, with women. That's a bad. Kobe was a really bad analogy for that because I just remember what he did. But my point is, consistency is key throughout any aspect of your life. If you really want something and you really just want to have like achieve a certain goal, but you're not LeBron James, you're not Tom Brady, you're not just that guy. I mean, actually, I think Tom Brady, he was kind of he was overlooked and he consistently showed up. And he said, "No, you need to put your faith in me because I'm here. I'm the one who's putting in the work." You have to just consistently show up even throughout failure to be able to reach success. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people to understand is that consistently failing and consistently hitting like a low to medium average, that's still beneficial to a degree. Obviously, if you're like for an extended amount of time, you're not making any progress, yeah, you're obviously doing something wrong. But I mean, consistently just showing up to an event like just practice or to class and you're participating and you're being active in the classroom, just being there consistently is how you are going to improve. I'm going to pull this from another band story I had. When we were doing tryouts for certain marching positions, I I wasn't consistently showing up. I had a lot of other obligations to go to. I also just didn't really care that much for it. It was just such an afterthought for me at that point. I just didn't really care. But I was still very good at drums. I was still good at march. I'm not gonna say very. I was still good at marching drums. I knew what to do. I knew how to do all the drills. I knew how to do all the exercises. I could just do it. But I wasn't like consistently there, right? Now, this underclassman under me, he I would say him and I were relatively the same skill level, but he gave it shit and he showed up every day. He got there early and he stayed there late at practices. He would go in during our in school like tutoring time. He would just go to the band room and he would just for like the next 45 minutes to an hour, he would just crack out exercises. He would just consistently be attentive and be there and he would work and he would give a shit. And you won't believe out of the two of us, our band teacher chose to keep on the marching squad. It wasn't the guy who didn't really give a shit. It was the guy who consistently showed up and gave a shit. And thinking about it now, I'm like, I probably would have performed better. Like if I was chosen for the role, I probably would have made a little bit of a better performance. I probably would have just done a lot of other things that were beneficial to the band, but that didn't matter in his eyes because I didn't care. I wasn't showing up to practice. I wasn't making sure I had all of our drills learned by a certain time. I was constantly showing up late. I remember one day I didn't even get a piece of music. I had to show up to a football game and learn on the fly while I was on the field because I hadn't gotten the music because I didn't show up on time. And it was no one's fault but my own. I recognize that. But what I'm trying to say is if I was consistent in my efforts to make a difference in the band, I probably would have kept the spot. I probably would be in a different spot than I am in now. But that's not what happened because I was actually consistently dog shit at showing up, and that's why I wasn't chosen. Even though I was maybe slightly better, it was because I wasn't consistent with my efforts. And I think a lot of people are like that, where they think, or they look at someone and they go, that guy is, he's just the best at what he does. He was just born to be this person. He was, he was destined to be exceptional at whatever they're doing. And a lot of the times that just isn't the case. It's because they got to where they are now because they were consistent about putting in the work, about whatever they're doing. Like, if you want to get fit, you have to consistently make sure you're eating correctly. You have to consistently make sure you're going to the gym. You have to consistently make sure you're not like binge eating or whatever. It's about consistency if you want to improve. And a lot of people, they just they see something, and like they see LeBron James and they go, I mean, fuck, that guy, he is born to play basketball. But they don't see all the hours where you're in the gym, or you're struggling, or you're suffering, but you still push through it and you're still giving it your all. They don't see that. All they see is the end product. No one ever looks at the progress. I see that a lot. You always see a lot of different music artists get called industry plants, um, because they'll get the one big song and no one's ever heard of them before, and they get the big song and they're like, "Wow, this guy. I mean, he's just wow." They're just pushing him on my feed. They don't ever see the multiple years of grinding that these people have to do to get even a sliver of recognition. You know, they don't see they don't see you consistently showing up to the studio and trying to crack out bars, or sitting on your laptop, just sitting in FL, just trying to come up with a unique beat. They don't ever see that. All they ever see is the end product. And I think once you're able to take a step back and recognize the patterns in which successful person, all of the effort that went into being successful. Once you're able to stop looking at just this and look at the entire picture, I feel like a lot of people can really understand and make a change in their life so that they can become said successful person, right? I'm I'm trying to make this series a daily kind of journal situation because I want to help myself be more consistent. Um, I've noticed that I think I actually got my YouTube monthly recap, and it says I posted about 7 YouTube videos this last December. And I spoke in one of my other videos on this channel about how I want to move from making 4 to 5 videos a month to around 7 to 8. And when I saw that, I was I was ecstatic because I had been reaching my goal that I set for myself of hitting around 7 to 8 videos a month. And the reason I did it was because I was consistent. I was consistently sitting at my desk editing videos. And sometimes the videos are kind of, they're hard to edit because like if I just have gameplay, there's not a lot I can do with it unless it's either funny or I'm doing exceptionally well. Sometimes it's all just mediocre. I'll do like a 3 hour stream and I just don't get any good content out of it to make a video. And that sucks. So what are my options after that? If I have a 3 hour stream that sucks, I can either sit and do nothing about it and then just like hope for the next day to have another stream and maybe I do good in that one, or I could come up with new ways of how to make videos, um, and try and work with that and work with what I have. And that's what I did. I realized that this new video game is yeah, it's new, so a lot of people are wanting to learn about it. So I said, what if I switch my content a little bit from just purely gameplay, where it's just kind of meant to make you laugh, to what if I put like a guide of how to play the character at the start, and then it's like half the first half video is how to play the character, and the second half is the gameplay of all like the funny moments in it. of me trying to be hilarious. And those videos, I mean, they've been doing well. The first one I posted um is at like 1.4 thousand views, which is not like great in the grand scheme of things, but it's great for like my numbers averaging, right? So I was like, holy hell, this is great. And then I just kept doing it. I kept doing that because I saw it was working and it continues to work. So what I'm trying to say is if you want to succeed in something in life and you want to see real improvement and real value out of what you're doing, you just need to show up. You need to constantly show up and be very consistent about it. No one just gets jacked because they go to the gym once and they work out really hard for that one day or that one week or the one month. They keep going. They keep showing up and they keep putting in the work over and 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 over again because consistency is key. Thank you.